Ladies and gentlemen, in the ring at this time is welcome with one no contest, fighting out of Victorville, California.
Imagination of fight fans who understand just how violently different these two forces are. One is a lightning bolt wrapped in charisma, a social media era superstar whose left hook detonates without warning. The other is a surgical tactician, a quiet destroyer known simply as the Monster, a champion whose precision feels less like aggression and more like inevitability. When conversations shift from reality to possibility, from sanctioned bouts to dream simulations, this is the matchup that ignites debate across continents. In one corner stands Garcia, tall, rangy, explosive. His presence feels modern, amplified by flashing cameras and millions of followers who tune in as much for spectacle as for sport. His greatest weapon is speed, blinding, twitch-fast hand speed that collapses distance in fractions of a second. The left hook in particular is not merely quick, it is violent in its economy. It travels the shortest path between opportunity and catastrophe. When Garcia lands clean, opponents do not have time to process what happened. The fight simply changes. Across from him, in this imagined arena, stands Inoue. Compact, composed, clinical. Where Garcia surges, Inoue stalks. Where Garcia explodes, Inoue calculates. He built his reputation by dismantling champions methodically, investing in the body, reading patterns, breaking down resistance with cold efficiency. His combinations are not thrown to impress. They are delivered with intention. Each punch sets up the next, each adjustment narrowing the path toward a finish. He does not chase chaos. He engineers it. This fantasy fight is not compelling merely because both men are champions in their own domains. It is compelling because it represents a philosophical clash. Timing versus technique. Explosiveness versus efficiency. Flash versus fundamentals. It is the collision of two boxing ideologies sharpened to elite levels. The first question that shadows this matchup is size. Garcia has competed in significantly higher weight classes. He carries natural height and reach advantages that cannot be dismissed as minor variables. His frame is built for distance control, for striking from outside range where his speed becomes even more dangerous. Inoue, by contrast, carved his dominance in lighter divisions where reaction time and compact execution reign supreme. If such a fight were ever negotiated, the scale itself would become a battlefield. Would Garcia drain down, sacrificing physical strength for contractual parity? Would Inoue move up, daring to challenge physics in pursuit of legacy? At the highest level, even a few pounds can transform punch resistance, stamina curves, and kinetic output. When the opening bell sounds in this simulated spectacle, the early rounds feel electric. Garcia establishes range immediately, flicking a sharp jab, measuring distance with subtle foot adjustments. His stance is relaxed but coiled, ready to spring. The crowd senses the threat before it materializes. One sudden shift of weight, one perfectly timed counter, and the left hook whistles across the canvas. Inoue, ever composed, absorbs the information rather than the panic. He does not rush. He observes rhythm, shoulder twitches, breathing patterns. He studies the cadence of Garcia's offense the way a chess player studies openings. Speed dominates the first exchanges. Garcia's hands blur in combinations that test Inoue's guard at a higher weight than he is accustomed to navigating. Yet even as punches snap against gloves and graze temples, Inoue's footwork remains economical. He inches closer, trimming the perimeter of the ring, shaving away Garcia's comfort zone step by step. Where Garcia prefers space, Inoue prefers proximity. Then the body work begins. It is subtle at first, a short right hand beneath the elbow, a left hook digging into the ribs during a brief exchange along the ropes. Garcia retreats, resetting at range, but Inoue's investment is strategic. Body punches do not always win highlights in the moment. They win rounds in the future. Each thudding shot carries compound interest. Garcia's output remains dangerous, yet the tempo begins to show micro-adjustments. The bounce in his step becomes marginally measured. The flurries shorten by half a beat. Technically, this is where the fight transforms from spectacle into study. Garcia must maintain defensive discipline. Leaning straight back, a habit that has surfaced before, risks inviting counters from a fighter who wastes no motion. Inoue's timing is predicated on capitalizing the instant an opponent overextends. A lowered hand, a squared stance, a predictable exit angle. Against most fighters, these are survivable mistakes. Against Inoue, they are invitations. Yet the danger flows both ways. Inoue cannot afford prolonged exchanges at full extension. Garcia's reach advantage means any extended pocket firefight favors the longer, faster striker. If Garcia catches Inoue stepping in without adequate head movement, the counter left hook could land with amplified force due to the weight differential. Precision is lethal, but so is raw kinetic energy delivered by a naturally larger athlete. As rounds accumulate, conditioning becomes a central narrative thread. Garcia's style thrives on early momentum, on shock and awe. When he hurts opponents, he swarms with athletic fury. But if a finish does not materialize, questions about endurance under sustained pressure begin to surface. Inoue, conversely, is accustomed to building fights. His aggression is measured, his gas tank calibrated for systematic breakdowns rather than sudden storms. By the middle rounds, the ring tells a more complex story. Garcia still flashes brilliance, punctuating sequences with eye-catching combinations that force Inoue to reset. The crowd roars at every clean connection. But between those bursts, Inoue chips away with disciplined consistency. A right hand to the solar plexus. A compact left hook upstairs after drawing a reaction. Subtle pivots that reposition him inside Garcia's reach before the taller man can fully extend. Psychology now presses against physiology. Garcia feeds off emotion, off visible momentum swings. When the arena responds to his offense, his confidence multiplies. Inoue operates differently. He is insulated from spectacle, comfortable in silence, methodical in adversity. If Garcia experiences frustration, if his explosive sequences fail to discourage the forward march, mental composure becomes as critical as physical stamina. The championship rounds loom like a stress test. If Garcia has not secured a decisive breakthrough early, fatigue may begin whispering at the edges of his explosiveness. Inoue's body attack, compounded over minutes, seeks precisely this outcome. A marginal delay in Garcia's trigger pull could spell disaster. 1/2 second slower, one guard slightly lowered, and Inoue's compact combinations find their mark with ruthless accuracy. Still, the volatility never disappears. This is what makes the fantasy intoxicating. Garcia needs only a single clean connection to rewrite the narrative entirely. Speed does not erode uniformly. Sometimes it requires just one preserved burst. Inoue, for all his structural brilliance, is not immune to physics. Moving up in weight introduces variables in punch resistance that no amount of technique can fully neutralize. Beyond the ropes, the business implications amplify the intrigue. Garcia commands enormous commercial reach in the United States, bridging hardcore boxing audiences with mainstream visibility. Inoue carries the pride and market power of Japan, a nation that reveres technical mastery and championship excellence. Together, they represent a rare trans-Pacific convergence of fan bases. Broadcasting rights, sponsorship alignments, and cross-continental promotion would transform this from a bout into a global event. Even as a simulated concept, it feels financially seismic. Legacy, however, outweighs revenue in the long arc of boxing history. For Inoue, conquering a naturally larger, globally recognized star would elevate his pound-for-pound stature into rarefied air. It would affirm that precision and composure transcend raw dimensions. For Garcia, defeating a technically revered multi-division champion would silence critics who question defensive lapses and strategic maturity. It would reposition him not merely as a viral attraction but as a complete fighter capable of conquering stylistic puzzles. As the simulated final round unfolds, both men carry visible wear. Garcia's speed remains dangerous but measured, deployed with selectivity rather than abandon. Inoue's pressure persists, though his face shows the cost of navigating extended-range counters. Every exchange feels magnified. Every feint draws a reaction heavy with consequence. And then comes the defining moment, the kind that cements documentaries and highlight reels. Perhaps it is Garcia slipping just outside a right hand and uncorking a perfect left hook that detonates against the jaw, altering equilibrium instantly. Or perhaps it is Inoue, having conditioned his opponent to expect body investment, who shifts trajectory mid-combination and lands a compact hook upstairs that freezes Garcia in place before the follow-up seals the outcome. In a sport measured in inches and milliseconds, destiny often hinges on a single correctly interpreted cue. What makes this fantasy endure is not certainty but tension. The variables are too finely balanced for easy conclusions. Size and speed argue fiercely for Garcia's early supremacy. Experience, composure, and systematic body work advocate for Inoue's long-term control. Each round recalibrates probability. Each stylistic nuance reshapes the equation. In the end, this imagined clash transcends spectacle because it embodies boxing's eternal question: can natural physical advantages overwhelm technical mastery, or does disciplined precision inevitably tame volatility? There is no algorithm capable of delivering a definitive answer without the bell ever ringing. That uncertainty is the fuel. It is why debates rage across timelines and comment sections, why simulation videos rack up views, and why analysts dissect hypotheticals with the seriousness of sanctioned title fights. Ryan Garcia versus Naoya Inoue would not simply be an event. It would be an experiment in contrasting excellence, a collision between modern star power and timeless craft. Speed against precision, power against patience, emotion against composure. Only one style can dominate when championship pressure compresses every flaw and magnifies every strength. So now the question turns to you. If this fantasy became reality, who controls the tempo once the adrenaline settles? Does Garcia's explosive athleticism shock the world before strategy can stabilize the storm? Or does Inoue's calculated brutality methodically dismantle the chaos? Drop your prediction in the comments, break down your reasoning, and if you're passionate about elite fight analysis and high-stakes fantasy matchups, make sure you like the video and subscribe for more deep-dive boxing narratives that go beyond hype and into the anatomy of greatness.